I always love that question. Who are you? Always
What
sounds
are
like
you?
so deep. Yeah, what am I? Always sounds like so deep. Who am I? So my name's Emma.
Welcome to English with Lewis. Let's go! Hello, everybody, and welcome back to English with Lewis. And it's another week, another interview, chit chat, conversation, natter on with a wonderful guest that I'm sure you already know. But Emma, hello, how are you?
Hello. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm not bad. We're recording this on a Wednesday, which is hump day. We're in the middle of the week. So the worst has already passed. And now I can just start looking ahead and looking forward to the weekend.
Do you have any plans for the weekend that you're
Uh,
looking forward to?
Nothing really set in stone. I don't have any
Mm.
particular plans. But to be honest, this is a sign that I'm getting old because I look forward to doing nothing.
Oh my God, I'm the same as well. Like sometimes I'll say to friends like, "Oh no, I can't come out because I'm busy." Like I'll tell people I'm busy. They're like, "Oh, what you doing?" I'll be like, "Nothing." Like I'm literally at home playing Sims. It's all I want to do.
Leave me alone, all right?
Yeah. Like stop trying to be my friend.
But no, I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to just catch up on sleep, have a nice lie in and stay in bed until 11, 12 o'clock, who knows, and just chilling out. Oh,
Yeah. It's
and
so underrated.
so underrated. And what about you? Any plans for the weekend? Are you looking forward to doing anything in particular?
So there is a Japanese festival actually going on in Barcelona. And it's on both Saturday and Sunday, but they have different activities and things going on. So I need to have a look and see which day sounds more interesting. But I think I'll go on the Saturday and then I'll use the Sunday as like a kind of chill day, before Monday rolls round. Like I could have a day to just do nothing at home. But I also need to catch up on work, so I probably won't be doing nothing. I'll probably be catching up on work on the day that I'm not going to this Japanese festival.
Uh-oh. Maybe you can multitask and you can be like editing or recording whilst playing Sims.
I could, or do a vlog going to the Japanese festival. I could do
Uh-huh.
that, but I don't know. It's always like it's one of those festivals where it's all outdoors and it's like, 30-degree piercing sun. And on my pale English skin, it's just not the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if I did a vlog, it would just be me being all sweaty and red and sunburnt. So probably not the most attractive vlog.
You never know. There's a niche for everyone, and lots of people like to know vocabulary related to summer and sun cream and
Yeah.
oiling and blistering and roasting and all of these
Yeah.
advanced ways of saying very hot. You could just repeat them over and
Yeah.
over again.
I could, yeah. And
And yeah,
people would remember.
exactly, repetition.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've got started with a little bit of small talk and a light-hearted chatter. But um, Emma, introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Etc.
I always love that question. Who are you? Always
What
sounds
are
like
you?
so deep. Yeah, what am I? Always sounds like so deep. Who am I? So my name's Emma. I am the creator of the channel Pronunciation with Emma. I'm from the UK. I'm from a city in the north of England called York. And that's pretty much it. That is me, unless people have any specific questions. I don't know, Lewis, if you have a specific burning question you really want to know about me, I
I
can
have
answer it right now on the spot.
so
No
many
escape.
questions, so many questions. I'm panicking. I don't know which one to ask first.
Yeah.
But let's start professionally. So, what did you do at university and why did you decide to study this degree?
So it's interesting. When I was in sixth form. So for anyone listening who's not sure what sixth form is, it's like what you go to when you finish secondary school and before you go to university in the UK. We also call it college as well. So I went to sixth form and I was very, very into art. And I actually wanted to be a graphic designer. So when I was like 18, 19 years old, I did something called an art foundation course. And basically, it's not a degree, it's a diploma. Okay. And it essentially lets you play around a little bit with different areas of art and design. So I would have lessons on photography. I had lessons on ceramics and pottery. I had lessons just on drawing, some on textiles, different things. And it's basically to help you find out what area of art you want to go into. And in the end, I decided I didn't want to do art anymore. I just found that it was too, I don't know, like you just had to follow a certain criteria. And, if you wanted a certain grade, you had to make sure you did this and this and this. And I thought, this isn't what art is about. Like, art shouldn't have to fit a criteria. So we went against everything I believed in, which is why I decided not to do a degree in art. And I thought back to my sixth form days and what I was studying and what I enjoyed. And I used to study English language. And I got my highest grade in English language. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed learning about the history of the language, learning about the history of the country, learning, like, why do we have silent letters? Why do we have such a weird spelling system? Learning about just different influences on the language. Because it's something that you kind of think about every day. Like, you don't need to be a linguist to think about, oh, why do we say that? You just sometimes, like, even my dad will be like, oh, why do we say this in English? Or why do we do this in English? And now as a teacher and as a linguist, I can answer those questions. But back then I would be like, actually, I don't know why. So I would go and look online. And this was before the days of ChatGPT and stuff like this. So I was having to literally look in books and have to, like, I know, right? And I had to, like, go on Google and search for things. So I did my degree in English language and linguistics, and I loved it. It was it touched on all areas of linguistics. So I ended up studying abroad for my second year in Spain, and many of the modules focused on American English as well. So I didn't just learn about, like, British English history and phonetics. I learned about some American English history, changes, and phonetics of phonology and things. So it gave me, like, this really nice, well-rounded idea of the language. Of course, there are many, many gaps. Like, we didn't touch on, I don't know, like other accents, like more specific accents. But it gave me a good general idea of the language. And then I finished my degree. I started teaching. I did my CELTA. And then I did my master's in English language teaching. I think the full title is like Education TESOL. So I finished that, and that's
here you
it.
are.
And here I am making silly little YouTube videos.
It's interesting because many people who are English teachers now living abroad and teaching English as a foreign language didn't actually study English at university.
No.
Many people do this because they want to travel, or because maybe they meet someone and start a relationship with them and they're abroad and they're like, what can I do? What should I work as? And then they might do a TEFL or a CELTA. But in your case, you've done all of the stages of being maybe the perfect English teacher. But
he said it. He's gone there. I'm gonna quote that. The perfect English teacher.
Just put it on repeat.
Yeah, just listen to it myself, like, so I internalize it. I remember many years ago when I applied for a job, as an English teacher in a school, which ended up being an absolute joke of a school. I ended up leaving literally after like 2 days because it was
Oh, wow.
just an absolute joke. Probably the shortest job I've ever had, actually. And I remember during the interview, the woman was quite surprised. She was like, "Oh, you're like a proper teacher, aren't you?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Oh, because we usually just get people like random natives with an online CELTA, like one of these a random TEFL course,
Uh-huh.
ones that are like, I don't know, $5 online and you don't really learn much."
Yeah, yeah.
So she was like, "Yeah, you're like a proper teacher.
You're
I
a real
didn't know
one.
that." Yeah. So I
Uh,
didn't realize how rare I was.
and
Um,
with this, you mentioned that you quit after a couple of days and it was a
yeah.
joke of a school. What
Yeah.
was wrong with it? You don't have to mention any names, but I
I,
like gossip, so tell me.
Of course, yeah, and I love telling gossip. So, I honestly don't remember the name of the school, so I can't name and shame. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were closed down. There were just so many red flags. Like, for example, they refused to give me a contract, and they
Mhm.
just said like, "Oh no, we'll just give you the lessons, and we're gonna pay you this much." I said, "Well, what happens if I cancel a lesson? What happens if the students don't turn up? Do I still get paid? Do I have to pay any penalties for missing lessons?" Like, I just wanted everything really clear. So that was one red flag. And then the second red flag was they I had to like choose the hours I was available on the system. And they said, "Oh yeah, students are gonna book." So I chose some hours and then they said, and then like no one booked. And I thought, why is no one booking? This is really
Mhm.
weird. And she was like, "Oh, no, it's because the times you've chosen are not very good. You have to choose times like, for example, between 12 and 2 when it's people's lunch breaks." I said, "Well, I can't do those times. If you told me those times, I would never have applied for this job." So that was another red flag where it was advertised as being like flexible, but it obviously wasn't. Like you still had to do the hours that they kind of told you, or at least
Yeah.
recommended to you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have students. It was just so stupid and so badly organized. But the biggest thing for me was if you're not going to send me a contract in like 3-4 days, then I'm not continuing with this. And then they just got really kind of angry at me. They're like, "Oh, but we never use contracts, blah, blah, blah. This is very," they kind of played it as like, "We're like a young, hip school. We don't
Uh-huh.
do corporate contracts." It was that kind of thing. But it's like, contracts are there for a reason.
Yeah.
Like, they are important and they protect you and they protect me. So, yes, if you're not going to give me one, then I don't want to work at your hip, cool, young school without contracts. Like,
Yeah, yeah. And
no,
it didn't last long, did it? So if it was after 2 days and you kept your word, you gave them an ultimatum, you
I
almost
did.
maybe not threatened them, but said, listen, if you don't give
Better
me
give me a
this,
contract.
I'm gone.
Yeah, yeah. I think I was there for probably it. So I started on the Monday, and then I said like, "Look, if you don't send me a contract by like Wednesday, Thursday, or something like that, then I'm gone."
Mhm.
And then I just never replied to them. Like they just got more and more aggressive, so I just started ghosting them. It's like,
Okay.
I have no contract, so I could ghost them. I have no obligation to reply to these people. So yeah, they were very weird
Interesting.
school. All I remember is that they were based in Andorra. That's
Uh-huh.
all I remember.
And it's a little bit of a tax haven as well, Andorra. So maybe there was
Yeah.
something going on over there. Who knows? Who knows? But
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
that
Like some
could be
kind
it.
of, yeah, something dodgy going on that. I honestly, I didn't even think of that. That's how innocent my mind is sometimes.
But you
But yeah,
wanted the contract and you stood by it and you did well. So bravo.
thank you very much. Yeah, I think this was like probably 8 or 9 years ago that this happened. But still, like, if there are any teachers out there who are working without a contract, get a contract because it can really save you.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And speaking about teaching and teaching experiences, I also had some teaching experiences from a very young age, because I
Mhm.
remember when you're in like year 9 or year 10 at school, and that's when you're like 14 or 15, perhaps,
In year 10? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
something like that, and you get to do work experience,
Mm.
and you choose what you want to do for a week. Maybe if you're into cars, you can go to like a garage and study to be a mechanic for a week. And
Oh,
in my
yeah.
case, I didn't know what to do, but my mum worked at a school. So I was like, I could go to the school and pretend I'm working at the school. So there was already an interest in teaching in my case from a young age as well. But to be honest, it was always a backup plan. So I
Mm.
studied languages because I was thinking maybe I could be an interpreter or translator. And then if it doesn't work out, I can be a teacher. Um,
Yeah. Yeah,
in
yeah.
your case, after like you studied art and realized that it wasn't really for you, when you studied English language and linguistics, what were the possible jobs that you had in mind at that time?
It in my first year at university, I had no idea what I was going to do because before then I was always like, I'm going to be a designer. Like I wanted to be a pattern designer. And I like once I did my like started my degree in linguistics, it was like, well, that's obviously not going to happen now,
Uh-huh.
at least not in this traditional way where you go through university, then you apply for jobs. And yeah, in my first year, I remember thinking like, I've just got no idea what I'm gonna do. But I was always reassured by my lecturers at uni, like, there's always something for you to do in linguistics. It's such a broad topic that you can
Uh-huh.
do so much. Like, there were people who went on to be teachers. There were people that went on to be speech therapists, actors, voice coaches, um, accent coaches and people who work with actors and stuff like
Uh-huh.
that. Loads of different things, people who just became like copywriters or managers because their communication skills were really good. So with it being so broad, it was like I could literally do anything, not quite literally. Like I could have become like a doctor
An
or something like that.
astronaut.
Yeah, become an astronaut. But it just gave me so many possibilities. And I didn't worry so much because in the back of my mind, I was like, something will come up. So I'm not even going to worry about this. I'm just going to focus on my degree, having a good time, and I'll worry about it when I graduate. And then in my second year, when I went abroad to Spain to study for a year, they had a program where you could kind of work as a language assistant in a secondary school. So I thought, you know what? That'd be a really good experience to put on my CV for when I come back.
Huh?
And when they told me that I wouldn't have to do any exams and that it counted towards my degree, like the number of credits for my degree, I thought, great, put me down for like the highest number of credits. Like I don't want
It's
to
a
do exams.
no-brainer. Come on.
Like I don't. If anyone has studied in Spain, have you studied in Spain before?
No, I did my Erasmus
Oh.
half of the time in Argentina when I was teaching
Ah,
in a local school there and living with an Argentinian family. And then the
yeah.
second half of my year abroad, I went to Sicily and
Ah,
did a
okay.
similar thing in Palermo. And I went to the University of Palermo. And I remember I
Hmm.
had like oral exams where I had to
Yeah.
like answer random questions in Italian, which was a little bit intimidating. But in the
Yeah.
end, I got like perfect results. And it's weird because my exams definitely didn't go well. But I think they maybe felt sorry for the people who were studying abroad. So then they'd give us like pity high marks.
Pity points.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same in Spain or not, or if it was easy when you were on your year abroad.
Kind of. I would say it depended on the tutor. So the reason why I asked if you were studying in Spain, or if you studied in Spain, sorry, is because they are very, very exam focused here in Spain. So I would have an exam pretty much every 2 to 3 weeks.
Mhm.
And it was like an intense exam. It was like a proper exam every 2 weeks minimum. Um, So I had an awful time in Spain. There wasn't much time to go out and party and stuff like that. I was
I
study,
know
study, study, study,
cuppa,
study.
sol, and all of these things. Nada.
No, no, maybe like a few nights a week. And then in the second semester, I did start to go out more because I was like, oh, I don't care so much. Like I'm here in Spain and I'm not even enjoying Spain. So I need to go out more. I need to experience Spain. I need to use my Spanish that I've been practicing and stuff like that. But yeah, going back to your question, it completely depended on the tutor because there were some who were very, very strict and they were just naturally strict with everyone. And then there were some people who kind of, because we were native speakers and other people were Spanish and Catalan,
Mhm.
they were a little bit stricter with us because it's like, I'm pushing you more than the others because these
Yeah.
guys are all doing their degrees in a second or third language here. You guys are doing it in your first. We're going to be a little bit harsher with you, or we're going to give you harder things to do,
Mhm.
which of course I appreciated.
Nice.
And then there were some who just treated everyone the same way. So yeah, so some of them loved us because they were like, "Oh yeah, we got to speak English with you, and we're different, we're new faces."
Mhm.
So yeah, some of them loved us, but I don't remember getting any pity points. If anything, it was the opposite. I was
Maybe this
punished.
was just an Italian thing. Like, I
Maybe.
definitely didn't do a lot and I didn't study a lot. I practiced a lot of Spanish when I was in Italy because I was
Uh,
living with people from Andalusia. So I ended up
uh,
improving my Spanish so much more than I improved my Italian. And it's a bit of a regret that I should have looked for more Italian people to
you
practice with.
were you were literally in Italy. What
I
do you
was
mean?
in
I should have
Italy,
looked
but
for more. Just open your front door and go outside, man.
it's funny though, because when you're on your Erasmus, usually groups are very like clicky and
Oh,
they
yeah,
stick
yeah.
together. And because I
Yeah.
was living with Spaniards, all of the like social plans that I got invited to were like Spanish parties. And my Spanish was
Uh,
already better than my Italian. So I was just like, okay, I mean, it's easy. I get to meet more people. We're going to do some fun things. And yeah, I could have gone to the market and be like, ciao, tu vuoi essere il mio amico? Like, do you want to be my friend? But I don't know. I didn't have it in me. I wasn't brave enough to do that and bold enough to do it. It
do
would
you
have
think
been
you could do it
cool.
now?
I mean, I could do it as a joke, but not actually being serious. And I could like record it and like, record this. This is going to be funny. I'm going to go
Yeah.
bright red because I'm going to be so embarrassed. But no. See, I'm a bit shy in the end. People usually
Oh,
don't think this when you're uploading videos online. They think, wow, these people must be so confident. They don't give a
yeah.
shit about what people think of them. But then I think it's common that people who create content actually inside are just shy introverts. I don't know if
Yeah.
this represents you at all or not.
I I don't know how to describe myself. I'm like an
What are
extroverted
you?
introvert. Yeah, what now we get to the big question. What am I? I'm like an extroverted introvert. So I very much okay, if you said to me, Emma, this weekend you can either stay home, play Sims, eat snacks, get a takeaway, chill, watch Bridgerton, be with your dog. Or you can go to these parties, you can go out to visit these people and meet new people and network, blah, blah, blah. Honestly, I would choose the first option. I would prefer to stay at home or like go out to the wood. Like many times, for sure, one day I'm going to get murdered because I always go out with my dog by myself. But we like go out into the woods, me and Freya. And I love it because it's just me and Freya. And I just talk to her as I'm walking, and it's great because she doesn't talk back. It's sweet.
The perfect friend,
Talking to her
somebody who will follow you and never
and
respond.
listens. She just listens. Yeah, well, listening, I mean, that's debatable. Whether she listens, I'm not too sure. But she responds and she looks at me from time to time, like, oh, yes, yes, yeah, whatever, mum.
Those little puppy dog eyes.
Yeah, she's actually asleep right now, bless her. I'm surprised she can sleep. I think she's got used to it because, like, when I did lessons and things, I would always be talking away, and she would sleep next to me. And I used to think, don't I annoy you? But now I think she's just so used to it.
It's like white
Used to
noise
me
now. It
chatting.
actually helps her get to sleep. It's just like,
I think so, yeah. Just listening to me chatting. Yeah.
awesome. Now, we'll return to languages, being abroad, and your professional life. But you mentioned your dog. What is the story with Freya? How did you get her, and what's
Yeah.
she like?
Oh, Freya is amazing. She's my absolute best friend. So the way that we found Freya, it's funny because we didn't buy her and we didn't adopt her. We kind
She
of
just
just
appeared one day.
we just took her, you know. Um, Basically what happened was there was a couple, let's say a girlfriend and a boyfriend. Okay, they each had a dog. And they would go over to each other's places and they would see each other. And of course, their dogs would meet. Now, what happens when you put a boy dog with a girl dog? Well, baby dogs are going to happen,
Uh-huh.
right? This didn't just happen once, this happened twice. Okay, so Freya has loads of brothers and sisters around somewhere, more than like her litter mates. Um, they just didn't want her. And they basically, like, when she was born, I think she had two other litter mates. So there weren't many of them in this particular litter, but they would just open the door and let them run around, like, in the fields
Uh-huh.
outside. And they didn't really care if they kind of came back. It was just like, well, I didn't want you to be born anyway, so if you die, you die. Like, it's natural selection. If you get eaten by an animal or something outside, like, they just didn't care. So she was very used to like running around the fields and stuff. And then coming back like super disgusting and dirty because she'd been playing outside all day. Um, and they just put up like an ad on Instagram and they're like, puppies to good home. And I think a friend of my boyfriend saw it and he was like, what do you think about these dogs? Because we were looking for a dog. Um, and my boyfriend was like, okay, yeah, sure. Let's go. We want La Blanquita. So there's two
Uh-huh.
black ones and there was a little white one, Freya. And we were like, we want La Blanquita. We want the white one, please. So we went to pick her up, and it was the dodgiest exchange ever. I mean, there wasn't really an exchange because we weren't paying for anything. They just really didn't want these dogs. And we met them in a random car park because I wanted to see like where she grew up, her parents, like her litter mates. I probably would have ended up taking them as well. But yeah, they were like, oh yeah, meet us here. So we went there and we were like, this is a car park. What? For like a big supermarket. It's really strange. So actually we make jokes like when she's been like really badly behaved, we'll be like, we'll take you back to the car park where we found you. It's just like a silly joke we make. But yeah, they came. She was just a teeny tiny little thing. Picked her up and they were like, yeah,
Okay.
she's yours now. Adios. And we left with this dog, you know? Um,
Interesting. And
yeah.
at this time, like, had the dog been like neutered, had it had its vaccines, or done any of these normal things that people do
It,
when a puppy is born?
if you think like so the parents clearly need to be neutered. They haven't even done that. So do you think they will have
Uh,
neutered these puppies? Do you think they will have like vaccinated these puppies? No, she came with nothing. I remember
But
they gave her
rabies.
back. Yeah, she came with rabies, like foaming at the mouth when I grabbed her. Um, she did not have rabies, I must say. And she was perfectly healthy. She was so cute, just a lovely, lovely little thing. And she was just so sweet natured and yeah, just lovely. And it's how she is now. She's so sweet. She's my absolute best friend. Like I can't go to the bathroom by myself. She's always with me. Um, yeah, follows me
Aw.
around. And it's not like in a weird kind of like, oh, she's got attachment issues. No, like she'll happily stay in another room, but she kind of likes being around me. I think she just likes seeing what I'm doing. She's a bit nosy like me.
Oh, so cute. You see, I want to get a dog, but then I always think
Oh,
like, well, maybe now's not the right time because we go on lots of weekends away. And then in
uh,
those cases, what would we do? Who would take care of the dog? So I'm always kind of putting it off. But
hmm,
at some point in the next, let's say, 5 years,
yeah,
I will have a dog. Mark my
good.
words.
Yeah.
Ask me in 5 years if I have a dog. And if I don't have a dog by that point,
We'll cancel you.
cancel me. Yeah.
Delete your account. Just get
I
off the
will delete
internet.
everything.
Imagine. Just delete your entire account. Like you've reached like 1 million followers. You're like, no,
Told you I'd
didn't
have a
get the
dog,
dog.
and I don't have a dog, all right? Awesome. Let's move on again from that topic and let's speak a little bit about languages. So
Oh.
you said that you studied abroad in Spain, but maybe you didn't use your Spanish. At the moment, you're living in Barcelona, so I
Mhm.
assume that your Spanish has got to a good level. But what what languages do you speak?
That's such a hard question for me to answer. So, of course, English, right? It's my native language. I was monolingual until I was about 19, 20 years old. And then I started learning Spanish. So, of course, I learned like bits of French in school, but that doesn't count because I don't ever remember the teacher speaking French.
Je sais
Um,
pas.
Literally, that was probably it. Yeah. And we would all speak with like really strong Yorkshire accents because anyone who made any effort with like the accent and the pronunciation was instantly bullied. So we would literally be speaking like Gemma Pell Emma because
Au
if you actually
revoir.
yeah bonjour like it was just yeah so cringe. But if you made any effort, people would just laugh at you and bully you. So that didn't encourage me to want to make any effort with that. So I don't count that as my second language. I don't count that as learning
Uh-huh.
another language. But I started learning Spanish um, as preparation for my Erasmus. So it was like a crash course, very basic, like un café con leche, tengo dos hermanos, tengo 20 años,
Uh-huh.
not now, I mean then I was 20.
For
Like,
anyone who doesn't speak Spanish, by the way, Emma just said coffee with milk.
yeah,
I am 22 years old, I think, or
I'm, t
maybe 20,
I'm 20 years old and I have two brothers.
and you have two brothers. Perfect.
Yeah. So like super basic stuff. I could count to 10 and that was it. But I loved it. I really loved it. And then going to Spain, it was such a culture shock because I'd never been abroad before in my life. Like we weren't one of these families growing up that went to like Benidorm for 2 weeks or anything like that. Nothing like that. So yeah, it was my first experience being abroad, talking to people who were non-natives. Um and trying to speak another language. It was terrifying. I remember like literally shaking going into Carrefour and people would be like, ¿Quieres una bolsa? And I would be like, oh my God, you're speaking so fast.
See?
Yeah. I just said, would you like a bag? Or do you want a bag? Literally. Oh my God, I used to panic. I used to hate going anywhere because the thought of going into like a bakery and saying un croissant, un café con leche, like a croissant, coffee with milk, please. I would be like shaking and like sweating. It
Mhm.
really really scared me. Um, but I persevered. I kept on going. My boyfriend is Spanish and we've been together for 11 years this year.
Uh-huh.
So I had to learn Spanish to talk to his parents. So when I first ever met his parents, they're from Uruguay originally, and then they moved to Spain when my boyfriend was 13. So they still have very strong Uruguayan accents. And I remember feeling so bad because I couldn't communicate with them and they couldn't speak English. I couldn't really speak Spanish apart from asking for a café con leche. And I just felt like this needs to change. Like I want like if I'm gonna be with this guy for the rest of my life, I need to be able to talk to his parents. So they were a big, big motivator. So I
Mhm.
had to learn Spanish to be able to talk to them. And now I can.
Well,
Now we talk
hey,
about all sorts of shit in Spanish. And it's great. They're probably
awesome.
regretting it, actually. They're probably like, oh my God, she talks too much now.
She was so much nicer when she didn't say anything.
Yeah, where she couldn't understand us. Could just like chat shit about me around the table. It's
Oh,
funny because I live in Barcelona and they also speak Catalan here. I don't speak Catalan, but I understand it very, very well. It's
mhm.
strange because when I read it, I struggle to read it. I don't know why, but I understand it very, very well. And with my boyfriend's family, they'll sometimes like switch to Catalan. They do it completely as a joke, okay? They'll like switch to Catalan to talk about me.
Oh,
They're just
wow.
like chatting shit about me in Catalan. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying. I understand Catalan. And it's a joke, of course. Like, Catalans sometimes have a bad reputation for like only speaking Catalan, but
Yeah, yeah.
no, they just do it as a joke because we do the
Perfect.
same in English, with
Um,
them.
an interesting expression that you used a couple of times, which I like, and I don't know if it's just in Yorkshire or if it's a Northern English thing. It's like chatting shit. So
Chatting
if
shit.
somebody is chatting shit, they are talking poo. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, talking
Um, they're
talking rubbish.
they're
Yeah.
talking rubbish. They're talking badly about you. Maybe they're kind of
Yeah.
gossiping about you. So maybe if your in-laws need to say anything or gossip about you and say anything bad about you, they're chatting shit about you in Catalan.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
dare they?
At
Chatting shit.
least do it in Spanish.
Exactly. At least
But
come on
no.
to the
Yeah.
face.
Yeah, but no, we do the same. Like me and my boyfriend will kind of chat shit about them in English, and it's all banter, it's all jokes, so it's fine. But yeah, but other languages I've learned. So I've studied German before. I've studied Portuguese, and I went to Brazil, and I spoke only in Portuguese, which was hilarious because
Okay.
people would go up to my boyfriend and be like, hola, bom dia, da, 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 speak to him in Portuguese, and he's like, I don't speak Portuguese, but my girlfriend does. And then I would come like the whitest, girl ever. Like, hola, bon dia, like just talking
Tudo
away and stuff
bem?
like that. To the bay.
Ótimo.
Yeah, and yeah, it kind of confused some people. But I learned Portuguese and I lived in Lisbon for a few weeks as well, about a
Mhm.
month. And I was doing an intensive course in Lisbon, which I really enjoyed. What else have I studied?
Have
I
you
did a bit
also
of
studied
French.
Japanese, maybe, or am I imagining it?
Yeah, I'm trying to think like chronologically how I've learned
Uh-huh.
things because I was also so Spanish and Catalan were the first ones, and then French was another one because I was working for a French company, but it was literally like a few phrases. It was like, hello, may I speak to Jean-Pierre because he has an English lesson now? Because sometimes I would have to call and speak to the receptionist who couldn't
Uh-huh.
speak English. So yeah, I had to learn like very basic French for that, like telephone French. Then German for funsies, and then yeah, then Portuguese for the Brazilian trip, and then Japanese. Yeah, so I'm
Perfect.
currently
Well,
learning Japanese.
well done, because
Thank
learning
you.
one language is difficult, learning multiple and maintaining them is much, much harder. And especially
Hmm.
if you're a busy person, you've got lots of things going on all the time. Like, I don't know about you, but I don't have time to maintain the languages that I previously learned. Like, I
No.
learned Portuguese, but never really got to a high enough level. So it's kind of gone and very rusty. A similar
Hmm.
thing with Italian. So I can kind of say that I speak Portuguese and Italian, but not really. And then
Hmm.
now I'm in Brussels. So I've been studying French on and off for the last couple of years. But more recently, I just don't have the motivation or
Yeah.
the need to speak French because people here, at the end of the day, everybody speaks English, or
Ah,
my
okay.
social group is very Spanish. So the
Hmm.
language that I actually continue using in my day to day is Spanish because many of my students are also Spanish.
Oh, okay.
But the other languages, I've learned them and then I've either lost motivation or I haven't had time to motivate myself and continue speaking it.
Yeah.
except with Spanish. So in your
Mhm.
case, how do you have time to practice them all, or are they all really rusty?
Oh no, they're all as rusty as anything. So Spanish and Catalan, I just naturally speak and practice and listen to every single day. There are even times, so I don't speak Catalan simply because I feel more confident in Spanish, and everyone here is bilingual.
Mhm.
So there are times when people will speak Catalan to me, like I'll go, but actually I can tell a true story. I went into the pharmacy to buy some paracetamol. And the pharmacist was speaking to me in Catalan the whole time. And I didn't realize they'd been speaking to me in Catalan until I left. I was like,
Mhm.
shit, they were speak well, they speak to me in Catalan.
And I
But
got
my
the
brain just
paracetamol.
yeah,
It
yeah.
worked.
Yeah. Like I didn't even realize because my brain's just so used to hearing the language, like both Spanish and Catalan all the time. So for me, it's almost like just a mix. Like I hear them both in the same way. Like I
Mhm.
don't hear Catalan. I'm like, oh, what? I don't understand that. No, no, I understand them both. But I always speak Spanish, so I maintain those naturally every day just by living here. Um, French, German, and Portuguese, but French and German, I don't touch anymore. I feel like they kind of served their purpose. I was planning for a trip to Germany. I spoke German. That's fine. I finished the job with the French company, so I didn't need French anymore. So they served their purpose, and I didn't need to maintain them. With Portuguese, I sort of maintain Portuguese by just following some accounts on Instagram,
Mhm.
watching YouTube videos in Portuguese every so often. So I still understand it. But I think if you asked me to speak Portuguese, I would find it a bit of a struggle.
Mhm.
So that's still sort of going. Japanese, I'm currently taking a short break just for a few months. Um, but I was taking lessons with a teacher, and every week I would talk to him, and we only really did like conversation with a bit of grammar. There was like a grammar
Mhm.
point, but we would talk in Japanese. Oof, yeah, that was hard. But while I'm quite busy, I've just left it for now. But I'm planning to start again after the summer. So that's
And
how I maintain them.
awesome, cool. It's interesting that French and German they serve their purpose.
Yeah.
Forget them.
Yeah. Because the way I see language, language is a tool, right?
Mhm.
If you think about it. Um, so I enjoy learning languages because for me, it's a tool. It's a way for me to get inside my students' minds. And, there are cases where these languages, I use them as a tool for communication in very specific circumstances. But when those circumstances pass, like I don't need them anymore, I just think, oh, I don't need that tool anymore. I'm going to try another tool.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
going to learn Korean or Japanese or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I see them. Uh,
It's interesting because yesterday I was speaking to a student and he already has a good English level and he's a big tech guy. So he loves
right.
anything techy and related to new innovations, anything like Apple, ChatGPT, etc. And
Nice.
we were having a bit of a debate about the future of languages and language learning
Okay.
because nowadays we have like instantaneous translation devices that are going to become more and more available to the wider public. And his argument was that if everybody spoke the same language, then it would be a productive thing and positive thing for the world.
Hmm.
Um, I know that there are other people who think that it's beautiful having so many different languages, and it's what makes us different and diverse as a species. But then the other guy again was like, well, it's just a tool. Language is just a tool.
Mm.
So then, if you have some headsets that are going to simultaneously translate, then everything will be more productive and people will be more successful. I'm kind of torn between these two arguments
Hmm.
and debates. And of course, from a selfish point of view, I want people to continue learning English, even though
Yeah.
everybody usually already has a good level of English. Um,
Hmm.
but what's your take on this debate? Where do you kind of position yourself?
It really depends. It really, really depends. if, let's say, I'm going to China for a week and I don't have the time or the money to invest in Chinese lesson, like Mandarin lessons, then having something like an app or an earpiece. I mean, if I can afford an earpiece, I could probably afford lessons, but on my phone, if there's an app, let's say, and it makes interactions, because we also need to bear in mind that a lot of the people that we're going to be interacting with are people who are probably just doing their job and they don't really care about you practicing your Mandarin, and they don't care about whether you're speaking perfectly. They're just there doing their job. They're not teachers. They just want to serve you as fast as possible so you get out, so you pay and get out the restaurant, you know?
Yeah.
So I think of it as like a considerate thing sometimes. Like when I was in Japan, I learned Japanese and I only spoke Japanese, but there were times where I was like, I don't know how to say this in Japanese. I'm just going to get a translator and use it. And I just literally just like, sumimasen, and just showed, like, put the phone in their face, and they read it and they were like, oh, hi, no. And then they, helped me with whatever. Or they would like use their phone, or they would show me something or whatever, they just responded to it. And I thought that's just so efficient. Instead of me missing out on things, like, we've helped each other.
Yeah.
So that's really useful. But at the same time, I think there's something really beautiful about languages. I mean, I literally study linguistics. There's something so beautiful about it. And there's something so beautiful about reading poetry or reading literature in a different language. Like, I keep getting people saying to me, Emma, you should learn Persian, because Persian literature is some of like the most beautiful literature you'll ever read. And my like native English brain's like, well, it can't compete with Shakespeare. You know what I mean? It's like, how could it be more beautiful? But no, I've been talking to like a few people who are not native speakers, that they're English speakers, and they're like, Emma, like, it's amazing. You just read the literature and it's like a different mindset, a different world. And I think that's something, actually, touching on mindset. When I started learning Japanese, I realized how much mindset is connected to language. So I think sometimes if you learn a different language, especially when it's from a culture that's very different to your, let's say, native culture. I don't know if there's a term for native culture, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shows you a completely different way of thinking and a completely different perspective and a different way of looking at life. So I think that's really unique and really beautiful. And I think that should be appreciated. So I'm torn. I think really it depends. If you're going for like a 2-week trip to China, use the translator, save everyone headaches, But I don't know, if you're wanting to invest in a language for a long time, then yeah, really study it, really appreciate it, read literature, read poetry, watch films, look more into the culture. It will give you a different perspective on everything.
100%. I think the big differentiating point is the fact that if you're learning it yourself, you're putting in the effort, which is a respect to the culture that we are speaking about.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you're going to learn so much more about why people say things in certain ways, why they behave in certain ways as well.
Exactly.
And I think if you enjoy watching series, for example, watching films and stuff like that in other languages, then it's beautiful as the process of going from not knowing anything about a language to becoming fluent or fluent-ish, to be able to have good conversations, understand normal media in that language. So basically, if any of you watching this are really tech friendly and you love AI, I get it. Like, try out these earpieces when and if they become commonplace all around the world. It's fun learning languages as well, and don't stop watching our channels and learning English with us because
Don't stop taking lessons with us.
we love you.
Yeah,
Not
support
like
your local
robots will ever
teacher.
love you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, anyway, we're going to wrap it up soon, but let's finish off with a little bit about pronunciation with Emma. So, how did
Sure.
it start? And what was the motivation behind starting making videos? And how has the evolution been over the last 6, 8 years?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So, when I was doing my master's degree, I was having a chat with my dissertation supervisor. So, for anyone
Mhm.
who's not sure what dissertation is, it's the final big research project you do. So, I was having a chat with her, and she said something along the lines of, "Oh, when you do your PhD," and like always kind of insinuating I was going to do this PhD. And then she said, "Oh, are you going to do a PhD? What are you going to do after you finished?" And I said, "You know what? I think I'm going to start a YouTube channel." And her face was just like, like, what? You're giving up academia for
Uh-huh.
for YouTube? But yeah, I was looking into potentially going down like the PhD route, so I could be Dr. Emma by now, but I'm not. Um, and I just decided that I wanted to make content online because a lot of my students, I was teaching privately at the time, and they would say things like, "Oh, Emma, I can't find any videos on the sound that we practiced in that lesson," or like they would they would get quite confused about when I they would get quite confused when I said certain things. For example, I would say, "Oh, do you have a car?" And they're like, "Car? Car? What's a car?" I'm like, "Oh my God, do you know what a car is?" Like, beep beep, a car. And they're like, "Ah, a
Choo choo. Oh
car."
no,
Or
that's
yeah,
more of a
like choo choo.
train.
A car, choo choo. They're like, "Oh, you mean a car or a car?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not saying car or car." So clearly there was like this kind of disassociation between spelling and accents and pronunciation. And we've got to remember that this was like 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when there weren't really many YouTube teachers around, especially for pronunciation. And any who were around, they were mostly focusing on American English pronunciation, American accents as well. So yeah, I would kind of say to them, "Oh no, this R sound, let's practice it together." And then I would say, like, "Okay, so what you can do is you can also look for some videos online, practice the sound, blah, blah, blah." And many of them would come back the next lesson, or they would send me an email like, "Oh, Emma, I can't find anything on the schwa. I can't find anything on how to pronounce the TH sounds. I can't find anything on the R sound," whatever. And I thought, "Oh God, they're just being bloody lazy. Like they're not looking properly. They just want me to do all the work for them." Because I would always promote independence in my students. Like, if you want to learn more about the R sound, then you look for it. I would give them the homework and materials, but this was extra stuff. I don't want people to think I'm a bad, lazy teacher. This was like
Of
extra
course
stuff
not.
I told them
No, no,
to
no.
to go look for. And yeah, I just thought, God, they're being bloody lazy. They're not they're not able to find it because they're not looking. And I started having a look, and I thought, there's not really anything here. They're right. This needs to change. And at the time, I found a few YouTube channels, and I didn't. It's not I didn't like them. I did like them. I'm weirdly friends with some of these people now, but they just didn't go into the level of depth I wanted them to. And whenever they taught pronunciation, it was very like it just touched the surface. They didn't go into rules. They didn't really go into like articulators, like different areas of the mouth and things like that. And I always sort of waited around for a YouTube channel to appear. I thought, "Oh, someone will create a channel one day, someone will." And then, yeah, it got to like finishing my master's degree, and I was like, yeah, maybe I should do something. So I mentioned it to some of my students, like in a kind of joking way, like, oh yeah, maybe I'll start a YouTube channel one day. Like, actually, yeah, you should, because there's nothing. Like, please start something. But I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified of making content and putting my face on the internet, and especially making like funny sounds and funny faces and expressions to talk about pronunciation. I was so scared. I was so terrified. And I just started small. I started on Instagram. And if you go all the way back to my very first posts, you'll see that I don't even have videos. It's just an image. It's just a post. And what I did to build up my confidence, so I'm telling the story to people in case they're thinking of maybe doing the same thing. I just started posting in my Instagram stories because it felt safer. Like I wasn't on the internet. I was just on my stories. And I built up my confidence that way. So, yeah. And then after a few months, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to start a YouTube channel. I'm going to go for this. Yeah. And I posted my first video and it's still up. I haven't removed it because I want people to see how shit it was. Especially new teachers who are just starting to create online content and who are just starting their businesses as well. I want people to see those shit first videos because then they can compare what I do now and how much I've grown, and hopefully they'll see that the content's better. But yeah, that's basically my story. I originally as well started out just teaching like everyone, and my business was called EW English, which is my name, Emma Walker, EW English. And then it's so weird when I tell people this story. It just sounds like so made up and so crazy. But I was laid in bed. So we're talking about the channel name. Okay. So I created the channel name EW English. And I was laid in bed. Oh, it's so cringe when I tell this story. But it's true. It's true. So I gotta tell it. I was laid in bed and I was just kind of thinking like, I don't like the name EW English because it kind of sounds like ew English, like ew disgusting, you know? And then all of a sudden, just in my head, oh man, it's so bloody cringe. In my head, I was just like, pronunciation with Emma. Just like, it just like came. Just like, it was almost like,
a message from the gods.
A message from the pronunciation gods. You know when you're like half awake and half asleep? And you can sort of hear noises and things around you, but you're not like present, you're not awake, right? And I was laid in bed, like sort of half awake, half asleep. And I just heard someone like in my ear be like, pronunciation with Emma, call it pronunciation with Emma. And I was like my eyes just like, bolted open. I was like, oh my God, who said that? Yeah, okay, I'll call it pronunciation with Emma. I'll call it that. So yeah, it's such a weird story. Like it doesn't sound true, but it is. That's how the name pronunciation with Emma started. So I wanted to create pronunciation content, but the actual name pronunciation with Emma, and it's not like it's a creative, unique name. It's literally just pronunciation with Emma.
It's like English with Lewis. Just pick a word and then
exactly
with and your name.
Exactly. But I remember saying to myself, I don't want to call myself English with Emma, because there was another girl at the time who had a similar kind of channel. She was also another Emma teaching English. I think she's still around actually. So I didn't want to call myself that. And I felt like a lot of teachers were just calling themselves English with Bob, English with Ben, English with Lewis, English with, I thought I don't want to be another English with. I want
to be pronunciation with.
I want to be a pronunciation with, because you don't find many pronunciation withs. So yeah, I wanted to be a little bit different. And I think like I remember thinking the name is perfect. Like it's straight to the point. It's something quite familiar, like English with Emma, pronunciation with Emma. It's that similar kind of format. It's search engine optimized. You search pronunciation, and you find me. It's perfect. So yeah, thank you to whoever whispered that in my ear and helped me change it. The
pronunciation gods, of course. Who else could it be?
Exactly. Yeah. And what do you think the pronunciation god looks like? you think it's just like a giant schwa with like
Maybe.
hands?
That might
Like,
be it. The huge schwa. She's above us somewhere, around us at all times.
it's like always watching, making sure you use it. Yeah.
Awesome. It's interesting. It's interesting to hear your story of how it came about. And
Yeah.
obviously, this was back in what, 2018, maybe?
Yeah, I started my channel like 7, 8 years ago. So 2018, 1920. Oh, so yeah, like 5, 6 years ago. Yeah, I
Wow.
started my channel and Instagram and stuff. Yeah,
Time
it's been a
flies when you're
while.
having fun, you know?
I know. It hasn't always been fun. It's been like a few breakdowns along the way. But overall, honestly, I wouldn't change it for the world. I honestly, like, I walk my dog in the morning and I just think, like, God, I'm so lucky. I just think about, like, I could be, I don't know, doing something else right now and hating my life, but I really enjoy what I do. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I guess that you're the same as well. I think when you have your own business, it's like your baby. This is mine. I've built this. And it's just a different kind of love.
Exactly. No, no, perfect. You have your love in Freya and your love in.
Business and marketing. Yeah.
But no, it's perfect. I don't know about you and anybody who's watching this, but right now, after we finish recording, I'm going to watch your first video because you've promoted it. So now we have to see what it's
So
like
bad.
to show the evolution and show the progress, right?
You
Um,
need to leave a comment as well, and then I'll find it on like this 8-year-old video. Yeah, some people still watch it.
mhm.
Uh,
But no, that's the plan. But on that note, I think we should call it a day there
sure.
because we've been speaking about you, about languages, about AI, about so many different things. So I hope everybody watching has enjoyed this. And if you have any further questions for me or for Emma, do not hesitate to write them in the comments. Of course, like and subscribe, the usual stuff. Um, but no, Emma, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you everyone for listening and watching. And we will see you soon.
May the pronunciation gods be with you.
Yeah. And whisper in your ears like they did mine.
Exactly. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and see you next time.